let's get into that Lane Kiffin thing, because that Lane Kiffin manifesto that he posted has really good thoughts. And here's the thing: if you are a team, like I had a Miami fan named Kevin, my buddy, texting me Miami's manifesto last night, and it's like everybody can make a case that sounds great for their team, because you omit and you ignore the things that are going to hurt you in your case. But let's break this one down and actually see, Andy, if Ole Miss has a case to go in over Alabama, because if you guys have watched any of the shows this past few days, I have been very resistant to just the notion of, let's throw Alabama in there. Like I think that we can do better than that as a system, as a playoff, as a committee, and as fans. So why don't you go through it here?
Okay, and as you know, if you watched our bracketology video, Ari and I talked about this, and Ari asked me, who would you? Because I have Alabama in bracketology, and my reasoning for that is just watching the committee and what they've done this year and over the years. I think that's what they'll do. Ari said, who would you take? And I said, Ole Miss. Lane Kiffin with his manifesto helping me make the case here. And so he's not even including Miami or a possible, SMU that lost the ACC championship, which he should worry about them too, but he's only worried about the SEC piece of it. He's got Ole Miss, Alabama, and South Carolina he's comparing. He says South Carolina lost to both of them. Their best win is against Clemson. Ole Miss and Alabama's best win is against Georgia. Georgia beat Clemson 34-3. Safe to say South Carolina's out, and it's between Ole Miss and Alabama. I'm not sure if Lane Kiffin wrote this or if he's grabbed a screenshot of what somebody else wrote and is tweeting this.
I'm sure it's a screenshot from a message board, but
yeah, which is even better. I hope it's OM Spirit. I hope it's On3's OM Spirit.
OM Spirit is amazing. But I think it would be better if he actually did it though, Andy, because like that means that
I know
time, and I want him to
I just want to see him like with his reading glasses on, just like, wait, how many? Okay, and his calculator's out as he's doing the outscreen. And Ole Miss has 9 wins.
A new respect for what we do, because it's not easy to come up with this stuff.
It's not that hard. All right, so he in his post, Ole Miss has 9 wins, outscoring their opponents 390-94. That's plus 296. Alabama has 9 wins, outscoring opponents 371-119. That's plus 252. In the 3 losses, Ole Miss was outscored 73-60. That's minus 13. In 3 losses, Alabama was outscored 88-55. That's minus 33. Common opponents both beat Georgia. The Rebels won by 18. Alabama won by 7. Both beat South Carolina. The Rebels won by 24. Alabama won by 2. Alabama beat LSU by 29. Ole Miss lost to LSU by 3 in overtime. Ole Miss beat Oklahoma by 12. Alabama lost to Oklahoma by 21. This says clearly Ole Miss that it's either Lane Kiffin or some message board poster that Lane Kiffin is cribbing off of and not crediting. Clearly Ole Miss should be in the playoff over Alabama, but Bama is the bigger brand and more than likely will get in over Ole Miss. I love that Lane Kiffin includes this here, because I don't know that a lot of coaches would do that, but he just likes to poke the tiger. Over and
that's over. That's the number one thing. You need to poke the bear. You want to. I don't know if antagonizing the people is going to get you what you want, but at the same time too, it's like you watch the games. I watch the games. We all here do. Like Alabama is, I think, in the betting odds, a slight favorite to make it, and Ole Miss isn't. And it's like, why? And I know that you're a big believer in the FPI and what that means.
I am not.
The committee.
The committee is a big believer in the FPI.
That's what I was saying.
Yeah.
But like that one metric, I think, is not the thing that tells the story of these two teams. And the reason why, and we can relitigate it now, but I put SMU in if they were to lose to Clemson over these, is because it's the cleanest decision. But as you pointed out yesterday, that's not really important. So
a clean decision is not a good reason. So,
but if it were up to me, if I were the commissioner of college football and I could control who makes it, if we get into a decision between SMU, Ole Miss, Alabama, and South Carolina, Ole Miss would be my pick. But I wouldn't really feel great about what it means for the other teams. It's just like, as you read these lists, like they're very compelling, and everything he just wrote there makes a lot of sense. But it's like,
I can write a list for Ole Miss, for Alabama, for South Carolina, for Miami, And if SMU loses to Clemson for SMU, I can write a list for all of them that in the way I write it, you will go, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. That's who I want. But you can do that for all of them because they all have flaws. They're a reason why they're all here. So that they have to pick one of them.
But I think
they're going to pick one of them. Maker's the most collectible sports cards on the planet. The Luminance Football Card Series features NIL autograph cards from players including Arch Manning, Quinn Ewers, Cam Ward, Jalen Milroe, Dylan Raiola, DJ Lagway, and Luther Burden. To start collecting, visit PaniniAmerica.net. I've got this Donruss Elite box that I still owe Ari. I forgot to bring it to him, maybe on purpose. I got my Aronde Gadsden II autograph card. This is the only NIL one that I've pulled out of a pack so far. But I've also pulled some other really good cards. I got this Cooper Kupp autograph that I pulled. Was pretty spectacular. I got a gold Puka Nacua. I got this rookie one that I've got to do the scratch off.
That's the mystery redemption.
Yeah, the mystery redemption. I got to scratch it off. What we got, Ari?
Oh, these are just some cards I got back from PSA. There's Bryce Young, silver, rated rookie out of Optic, and this guy's back. He's back and better than ever.
He's getting hot again.
The prevailing thought that you hit me with yesterday, and it's true, and you had to remind me of it. When we moved to the 12-team playoff system, I said that no matter who gets screwed at the end, because, we did tell you, or I did at least, in the middle of the season that this was going to happen, that there were going to be more teams who felt they deserved to get in than there are spots. But if you are in the position where you do get left out and you feel screwed, just remind yourself, you don't feel bad for those teams in the same way that you felt bad for Florida State last year. I think it's very different. Because as you read the manifesto that Lane posted, the only thing that I kept hearing in the back of my head was, you lost to Kentucky, you lost to Kentucky, you lost to Kentucky. And that's not a bash on Ole Miss, because if Kalen DeBoer posted a manifesto, I would be like, you scored 3 points at Oklahoma, you scored 3 points at Oklahoma, you scored, all the teams that are here have something like that. Now, I don't know if South Carolina has something as embarrassing. And maybe that's a selling point for South Carolina.
Don't they have a 24-point loss to Ole Miss?
But they do have a 24-point. Yeah, but losing by 24 to a really good team is.
Well, they also had Sellers was limited.
Yeah,
Rocket Sanders was hurt.
What do you think was more? Let's key in on the word here. What do you think is more embarrassing, losing to NIU or losing to Ole Miss by 24? I think losing to NIU is more embarrassing.
Right.
So,
we're not even arguing about them.
Yeah, but from an embarrassment standpoint, and the ACC championship game has not happened yet, so we don't know. What if SMU comes out and loses by 30? I guess it could happen. Probably won't, but it could.
I want to point out Eric's comment in the chat. SMU is in if they lose. Let's stop trying to make it interesting for clicks/views. Eric, we're not trying to make it interesting. I'm telling you right now, if SMU loses, it will be a legitimate argument in the committee room. They're not automatically in.
I think that there is an assumption that they're automatically in. And as I was doing Bubble Watch on Sunday morning, Andy, I put them in. It's right there. You can see.
Let's not assume that the committee will put the ACC team with fewer losses in the playoff. Did last year not teach you anything?
And when we got into the videos that we did on the On3 channel, Andy talked me off of that. So I think that this is how I think it could play out this way, but there's no amount of certainty to that bracket. That's just the best I could come up with.
Yeah.
And I got a little froggy a little bit with it. UNLV being there, for instance, is not a popular thing you're going to see. So,
I don't know. I went back and looked at we're going to pick the games and we'll talk about that. But I went back and looked at the stats of that first UNLV Boise State game. If Barry Odom brings what he brought the first time around, there's a good chance you might be right. So this is going to be an interesting week, though, because we're going to talk about the people who are playing in the games this week. But right now, we're talking about the ones that aren't. Lane Kiffin is one of them. Is Kalen DeBoer going to come? Here's my question. If you're first, because Nick Saban would always politic in a time like this. 2017, they just lost to Auburn. They're not playing a championship game. He's politicking to get themselves, get Alabama in over Ohio State. Can Kalen DeBoer do that as the first year coach? Like, would he do that? I mean, it's part of the job. But are we going to see a Kalen DeBoer manifesto? Shane Beamer, with the creativity of South Carolina's video team, I'm ready for a banger of a South Carolina manifesto hype video. I'm ready for that.
I was actually moved the most by Shane Beamer's plea because at least Shane Beamer acknowledged the elephant in the room during his, right? Which is, we have 3 losses. And I know when you have 3 losses, like that is, the thing that I have a hard time with, and it happens to me on Twitter a lot, Andy, too, as you know, I am prone to the meltdown, is I know and understand that everybody who has a favorite team is going to fight like hell and post and argue like hell to make their team look the best and to fight in politics for their team. I think that's what's so beautiful about the debate. The thing that I don't like, which you see a lot on social media, not so much in here, because I think the people who watch the show are seasoned and smarter than that, is when people leave reality. Like, my number one pet peeve in life is irrationality. And that to me is off-putting. So when you have an argument, but you're also willing and able to acknowledge the downside of those things, I am more prone to vibe with your message than I am otherwise. So
AJ, just give us the objective metrics that the committee uses to rank the teams, please. They don't have objective metrics. They choose the ones they want to choose.
Oh, he's joking. Yeah, he said there aren't any. It would be.
Yeah.
The thing that is interesting is that if you got to a place where there was just, here are, if you had tiebreakers and data the way that they do with how to determine who plays for a conference championship game, then there would be no need for a committee, because then it would just be data and anybody could break it down, right? The committee exists specifically to make decisions that are bigger and deeper than data. So
also, if everything was competitively balanced and the schedules were competitively balanced, you could compare them more easily, but you can't. You can't even compare schedules within the same conference easily.
You know what I don't understand, because this is a bad at math podcast, and I'll have you help me out with this, is that I wrote a column on Friday that got a lot of people upset. And, maybe it'll turn out to be wrong. Yeah. But just go with me on this for a second, okay?
Yeah.
So let's just say I'm 1,000% right about the SEC, and that the SEC is just above average or average in comparison to what it's been in the past. How does strength of schedule work if the perception of that schedule is off to begin with? It's like, if we viewed the ACC through the same lens in which we viewed the SEC in the past, wouldn't those numbers be skewed? It's not just based on record and stats, right? Isn't it based on ranking and the subjectivity of the strength of schedule thing is also contaminated by notions that may not be true.
Can I throw one more thing at you though before we continue with that, because it's relevant to what you wrote Friday. Our pal David Hale from ESPN put this out this morning. Out of conference records by conference.
Yeah, SEC is good, right? They're the best at it.
Yeah, the only one that was above 500 and was well over 500. So for the folks, let's read it. These are your Power 4 out of conference records for the different conferences. The ACC was 9-17 against other power conference teams. The Big 12 was 7-10. The Big 10 was 6-9, and the SEC was 13-7. Are we sure the SEC sucked?
That is interesting and certainly important. I don't know if I would also make conclusions based on that metric, just because what if I don't know what the games were. It's if Purdue and Minnesota got their asses kicked, I don't think that really does anything to sway me. You know what I mean? How many more games did the SEC
there's not one you remember other than Clemson, Georgia.
Yeah, it's
that was huge.
The only ones I'm concerned with is what if we redid that, and it might turn out that the SEC is still better, but what if you only took in records of the top half of the conference? like would it be the same? You know, like how much can the numbers be skewed by like one bad team, like or one team or a cluster of teams at the bottom? Like, what if Mississippi State didn't play as many non-conference opponents?
Well,
in
you've got
the Power
Mississippi
Four?
State losing to
Yeah.
Arizona State. You've got Florida canceling out because they lost to Miami and
All
Florida.
I'm saying
Actually,
is, I
no,
think
I'm
that
sorry, they beat
data is
UCF, so they're
stupid.
2-1. Yeah,
Data can
so
be
that doesn't.
is malleable. You can
Yeah.
you can take data and be like, hey,
But what I'm
like,
saying,
you
Ari,
peel
is
the curtain
this
back.
is
yeah.
this is the data every year. This happens every year.
Oh, sure. Yeah. No. And like, listen. the
So is this year
SEC
that different than other years? Is what I'm asking you.
But I also don't
Really?
think that the SEC, like the point of my column wasn't even like if you read it, you know.
No,
I
I
wasn't saying-
agree with you. Like I have eyes.
I know, but also too, the SEC could be the best conference in America, but it still might not mean that the teams in the middle of that conference deserve a benefit of the doubt in the way that they have in the past. Just because you're the best doesn't mean you're as elite as you've been, and the way that they've been elite for the last 20 years has guided our viewpoint on how to rank these teams. And I think it also contaminates the strength of schedule metrics. Like it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If all the teams are ranked higher because people who vote or people who rank them have preconceived notions of how great they've been in the past,
Well,
then of course their strength of schedule is going to be more
Hey,
pretty.
can I
than
throw something else at you? Because this is another thing people just can't seem to wrap their brains around. Goat Dog in the chat. And I'm not making fun of you, Goat Dog, on purpose. It just I know what you're thinking, but you got to think about it differently. South Carolina is the best looking 3-loss team right now with a win over a potential conference champ. And the potential conference champ Goat Dog is talking about is Clemson. You do know that Alabama and Ole Miss also have wins over a potential conference champ named Georgia.
What do you think of this here, Andy, from Goat Dog?
November ball is greater than September ball? Great. Ole Miss beat Georgia in November.
But as it pertains to the stats you were just reading.
Okay. The SEC won most of those games in November, I guess. So that is helping not your argument?
The non-conference games, I was saying.
That's what I'm talking about.
Most of the games that they played in November against non-conference opponents.
The SEC won? Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I guess like the Georgia Tech number and stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, Georgia beat Georgia Tech.
Yeah, also too in those
Florida
numbers,
beat
like
Florida State. Now Louisville did beat Kentucky. They finally beat Kentucky, but South Carolina beat Clemson. So they were 3-1. The SEC was 3-1 in those games.